Welcome back to the show. Here's a question for you. How much do you really know about the place that you live, the place we call home, Tampa Bay? Well, that was the question that one local author decided to think about and investigate. And now there's a new book to celebrate: The Secret World, Secret Tampa Bay, a guide to the weird, wonderful, and obscure. Good adjectives there. Good morning to you, Joshua. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, so let's first dive in. You literally had this question, and I feel like Florida has so many unique elements. We talk about it often here on the show, and I'm sure you agree. Why, instead of just doing, some research, did you decide, no, I'm going to tell the stories. I'm going to venture out there and find the weird, obscure, and wonderful things?
Well, it was something I kind of got into accidentally. My wife and I, in October, will have lived here for 4 years now. And when we decided to leave Chicago, we decided we wanted to spend our last few months there really doing things you could only do in Chicago. And some of those were well-known things like Navy Pier, and some were very obscure, sort of offbeat monuments and things of that nature. So we continued that when we moved here to Tampa. And what I found was that there was so much that we didn't know or weren't really expecting, that eventually I compiled enough content that it sort of became this book.
And here we are today. There's a cover, of course, of the book. But here's one thing I feel like people, especially residents of Florida, can fall into. A lot of things you're like, oh, that's what the tourists do. I'm a resident. I'm not going to do that. What about this book? Residents, tourists alike?
That's my hope. I tried to create it broadly enough to speak to anyone's interests, whether it's little known things about sports or restaurants or even some larger attractions that some of the tourists may not know of, but that the locals may. I wanted to make sure that it's a book that hopefully everybody can find something in here that they didn't know about and that they're excited to go see.
Okay, so when we first started looking, some of the things that I saw on the cover, the Dolphin that's famous for the prosthetic tail, kind of know what that's about, but you found some that even stumped us here on the show. So let's share some of those. What's the first one that kind of caught your attention, and ours too?
The first one, my wife and I were driving down McMullen Booth Road,
Yeah.
and we saw a very unusual looking building, and it was there was a Sam Ash music store there, but we decided to poke around, and we discovered that it was actually what used to be the old Kpop Tree Inn, which was sort of a beloved local restaurant that at the height of its fame shut its doors. And it has been kind of reborn as an event space. And of course, with COVID-19, I don't know that a lot of big gatherings are happening, but what's wonderful is that the gardens out back are open to the public most days of the week. So that's kind of a great hidden little picnic spot.
Oh, I love that. That looks absolutely fabulous. That's not the only one, though. Of course, I know exactly what you're talking about on McMullen Booth Road right there. But what are some other ones that you want to see if we've heard about before?
Well, one that really surprised me is kind of hiding in plain sight in right there in St. Petersburg is the Museum of Motherhood, also known as the Mom.
What? Now, okay, never heard of this one. Never heard of this one. What's this all about here?
So Joy Rose, who you may know as the lead singer of a band called Housewives on Prozac, she actually moved to the area in 2016, and she brought with her a collection of what she calls memorabilia. And she created what's essentially the first space dedicated to sort of the art and history and science of motherhood.
Huh, I had no idea. We'll have to get our St. Pete executive producer on the horn for that, see if she knew of that one. And finally, we've only got time for one more that you're highlighting, which we got a glimpse of. And I'm going to say Carly even said, wait, is that here in Tampa?
Yeah, I think you must be talking about the Penny Lane Beatles Museum.
Yes, no idea.
which is that is in Dunedin, Florida, and I think Dunedin really does weird and wonderful in all the best ways.
Mhm.
And this, kind of like my book, this grew out of someone's personal fascination. Dr. Robert Entel had been collecting Beatles memorabilia, and he decided to display some of his 1,200 pieces, including original sort of signed posters and guitars and cake toppers and buttons. So that was really a lot of fun. And I know they're not open right now, but they do plan to reopen in the fall.
Joshua, you're a transplant from the Midwest. I'm from Ohio, so same kind of thing. Living down here, you did always have kind of like the impression of Florida from a tourist point of view. Living here, even better. Why is it, do you think, though, that Tampa Bay has lent itself to the weird, wonderful, and obscure?
Well, I think a lot of that is just the history. It goes back thousands of years, from the indigenous people to conquistadors landing here to, artists setting up their own studios and building their own castles and things of that nature. So I think if you're looking to get away from sort of a stereotypical civilization, I think you're probably bound to end up here in Florida.
And you know what? Now you've got a book to go along with it. Where can people go so that they can get a copy?
Well, if they'd like to get a signed copy, they can do that on my website at secrettampabay.com, but they can also find it through most of the other big retailers as well.
Good stuff. Josh, was so great to meet you. I know you're going to be doing more, I'm sure, in the future, so come back, okay?
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And we hope you stay right there because, of course, the show will continue right on the other side of this break.